basically, Bruce and I have known each other for like a million years. I was one of those pain in the ass customers that used to always have mod my Marshalls, etc. And then somewhere along the way, I actually ended up being the CFO at Rocktron, which Bruce was working at. And for a myriad of reasons, we decided that we wanted to start our own business together. So this was like 99, 2000. So we started based upon this modular concept because he had previously done the TOL line, which was very successful for him. But we wanted to do something different. In finding out all these years, the TOL was the amp to end all amps, and then guys were asking him to mod his amp, and we kind of said, hey, how about something different? So we came up with the idea to make the channels interchangeable. And it had a little bit of a slow start for a few years, but it's really gained a foothold and has really taken off. We do a licensing arrangement with Randall, and they're just coming out with the new Kirk Hammett series, and that's pretty exciting. So together, we've built this business, Bruce being the brain trust and making all the circuitry work. I kind of play behind the scenes and finance it, come up with some of the ideas, but mainly try to support the entity for the last 8 years to bring us to where we are today.
30 years ago, we started out just making stuff. Thought, well, nothing did what I wanted as a player at the time, so I kind of figured out how to make my own amp, and I made a 2-channel amp. It was actually about the time that the first Boogie came out, the dual mode one where you could switch channels. And the thing I needed was one that had tone controls on both channels, and nobody had one. And I was just a dumb kid, and I said, well, I can make one of those, not thinking that I couldn't, and I did, and got kind of popular in the local scene with the local bands, and we sold a bunch of them and kind of went from there. We didn't expect that to happen. And then we hooked up with some other musicians and stores. We had a couple of local guys that ended up moving out to California. Randy Jacobs was one of our first guys. He plays with Was Not Was and the Bone Shakers. And he was a customer at Makin' Music, which was a cool store out in Hollywood. And they saw his gear that was all customized by us and custom built for him, and they started buying our stuff and asking us to modify other people's gear for a bunch of famous guys. And eventually it turned into making our own amps, and that's where the TOL series came from, and the IE4 was our first real product, which was the 4-channel preamp. And kind of blossomed from there.
Tell me more about the mod series. I mean, just assume maybe somebody watching this has no idea what it's about. This is an amp that is basically mini amps in one, right?
Absolutely. The idea was amplifiers have 2 components to them. There's the preamp or the front channels, and then there's the back section, which is the power amp. And what's happening is a lot of guys will purchase an amplifier and maybe like it for a while, not like it. As guitar players, we get bored pretty easily, and we're always like kind of going through gear because we're always, searching for that ultimate tone. But what happens is when you get rid of an amplifier, you get rid of it because you're not in love with the preamp section. And the power section is very similar for most amplifiers. And it's based upon a classic Marshall Fender design. And so the front end is really where you want the flexibility.
This is the Mod 50 chassis, and you can see all the stuff that's inside, which we're kind of proud of. We do nice work here, and it looks great. We do have 10 different modules. Everything from a number of different Fender versions to some Marshall British type things. We have a few modeled after a Boogie. We have some of our own sounds. And you just simply plug in the module you want, and it turns this amp into that amp. This is where we do all the testing. We have all the, my son Ian does all the testing on all the modules, the amplifiers. This is his bench over here.
Got to ask you, what is this thing right here?
Can't tell you what this one is. This is a prototype we're working on for a future product. And it's, as you can see, it's a prototype. You'll find out about it in, about 6 months.
So what are we looking at here in your work area, then?
Well, you can look at this and see a lot of the gear is kind of old looking. We call it old school as opposed to old junk. This gadget over here is simply a speaker load that I probably made 25 years ago, and we still use it. It's still valid and it's still great when we test amplifiers. We, of course, have real equipment and real stuff. We've got the real scopes and the real, ability to make real measurements. But we've got my grandfather's soldering iron.
I love this.
This is probably older than anybody that's going to see this thing on the film. I got that from him 25 years ago, and it was probably 40 years old when I got it.
I saw you use it yesterday for a ground loop, and it means business.
Yeah, he used to solder radiators with that, and it's effective for when you have to solder some big piece of metal, a ground connection in a Fender amp, or the bus bar in the amps that you guys built yesterday, and all that kind of stuff. The Variacs are cool old things. They are modern. You can still buy these from any electronic supply place. All it does is allow us to turn things on slowly, so when you build a new product or you're repairing something, you don't just flip the switch and blow it up again if you missed anything. This one I made, probably 30 years ago. Still works great. Still functions just like any of the other ones. And what else do we have in this area here? Here's another cool Variac. We do have some of the test gear we use for making frequency response measurements and things like that. This is the test bench, basically, for finished products that we do all the testing right here.
You got to show me the speaker box you were telling me about.
This will take a second.
So how old is this?
This is our master test speaker enclosure that I've had for 30 years, maybe. It's got an EVM 12S in it, and it's just a box, and it's the one that is the key to all our R&D. That's where everything gets played when we test it. Of course, we use other modern speakers when we final test things, but this is the one.
Now you kind of have the best of both worlds. It's like the secret's gotten out. You've designed some things that are for and sold by Guitar Center.
That's fairly new. We just started doing that with them. They came to us in sort of a roundabout way, looking to get more into the boutique amp world, which was somewhere they hadn't had a lot of activity in. And they came to us and actually had us design products specifically for them. They have their ideas of what they can sell in their stores, and they came to us and said, "Can you design these things?" And that's where the Tour Master came from. Was almost their request, their design, and we implemented exactly what they wanted for their stores and their customers. And there's a number of other things. I don't know if you've seen the Rebel that's coming out soon. It's a little 20-watt, cool little amp. That was another one that they felt they had a gap in their stores that they could fill with stuff that we can design for them. The cool thing is it has our name on it, which is us putting ourselves on the line and making sure that everything is right and everything is great, because it's our reputation at the same time. So this is working out great. This is a cool deal. We're here in our little place. This is our whole world. And we want them to know that we're the people behind the gear. There is no big company. There is no big factory. As far as the construction of our products, we just do the best we can. We do everything here. I design all the circuit board layouts. We have them made locally. We're in control of pretty much all the aspects of manufacturing, but we use the best stuff we can. We burn every product in for at least a couple of days before we ship them. So we try to do everything we can to ensure it's going to be right and quality when you get it.